going up. I mean, it's skyrocketed. So a $600 pension 10, 15 years ago won't buy much of anything here today.
And why the millennial generation is starting to give up because they can't afford to get a good job or own a house.
8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him. And 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
The Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability. RTD Live Talk, Monday night, the 26th day of the month of November. We're live after a very long, extended weekend due to the Thanksgiving weekend. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I know I definitely did. Ate a lot and just finished eating a little bit my dang self. So other than that, hope all's well with everybody. My name is Mike, the host of RTD Live Talk, #1 late night YouTube talk show on the net. And so we're live now. And as you can tell from tonight's title, what's on your mind? Want to find out what's happening in your world or in your personal economy or what's happening around this world. So as always, there's a number above my head, 1-833-LIVE-RTD. That's for you to call in and join the conversation. And other than that, let me make sure my phone line is on and then also check in with whoever's watching us in the chat. If we have any new viewers, make sure you let us know over here in the chat where you're watching us from. Love to welcome you and greet you into the RTD community. And so with that being the case, I got New York Redneck, got Student of Life, Joe, Faith, Blue. Hello, people. Hope all is well. Hope you guys had a great weekend or extended week, rather. But a couple things I want to talk about, of which is hard to miss. But one thing that I was actually today accidentally saw on the screen, a breaking news story right here in Detroit. You know, GM set to lay off 14,000 people. It looks like immediately or soon enough. And so from that, about 5 or so factories going to close up. And I heard about some possible lawsuits and a lot of people not happy right now. And so I want to get your thoughts on that as well as share my thoughts on how I believe that that's just the beginning of what we should expect in 2019. And then also I had a chance to put together a little mini documentary earlier. And I want to get your thoughts on that as well and see if you guys are feeling that, as well as more importantly, to help get the message out there and the importance of people really beginning to wake up. And as I concluded the video, mentioning my opinion would be to be alert, attentive, and to take action, basically referring to the idea of getting your weight up and making sure you are well positioned in these very turbulent times we're in. Then also I heard, I haven't dived into it much, but I heard there's some martial law going on in Ukraine, and I actually watched a little bit of their parliament meeting. It is very chaotic, and it was, you know, a lot of stuff happening over there. So I'm going to find out what's going on with that as well, and whatever else is happening out here. Feel free to let me know, because the goal is to get connected and find out what's happening all around us. And let me get into the chat and see what's going on. It says, my mind keeps thinking that we are being misdirected on all fronts. It says, even economic to distract us from the intersections of historical cycles, food shortage. Food shortage. I do believe we are heavily distracted by we're bombarded with all types of media these days, whether it be entertainment, educational stuff. I can't really say false flags, but news that isn't really propaganda type news. Like, you know, we're hearing a lot of things about events happening all around the country. And so, of course, like always, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago on some live streams about what would happen when that migrant caravan reached the borders. And here they are. I guess it's 5 major borders or checkpoints along the Mexican-United States borderline. And I guess Tijuana is a hot area because I heard that people from the Mexico side was throwing things at the border troops, and they were shooting tear gas back. And of course, on CNN and a lot of the mainstream media sources, I saw, you know, a mom holding kids running mixed, smoke and stuff like that. And a lot of people were socially engaged by that picture, posting things like, it's damn, all types of, very unproductive language in reference to our current administration and how we are handling that matter there. But they didn't show what led to the canisters being fired into the crowd. So that's typically how they do it. So, but it is what it is. It says, what are your thoughts on the subject of food security? Food security, New York, I haven't really dived much into it, and just using the words food and security don't really seem to go well with me, because I of the mindset that there's nothing really secure in this realm, really. So as far as being prepared, having excess food in your possession for your family and your immediate need, give or take some logistical breakdown, you can't go to your grocery store, I think you should definitely have some things on hand. But as far as security, reassuring continuous food supplies for seasons, months, years, I don't dive into that much. I know that a lot of food is imported and exported all around the world for most part. And here in the United States of America, we get food from all regions, predominantly the areas where the weather's the best year round. And so give or take, we got the climate situation where you might have a drought out in the West Coast. So that means that affect crops. And then down south, they have floods and too much rain. And so, so I haven't dived much into it. But, New York, feel free to share your thoughts on the food security aspect if you like. I wouldn't mind finding out some things myself. It says money is worthless without primary wealth. Very true. Primary wealth meaning things that come from the ground, hence food, shelter, water. I think water definitely amongst food is probably the biggest asset that we need as human beings, because without those two, nothing else really matters. And so starting off with water. It says, I told everyone I knew that killing the commuter cars across the brands was a bad sign. Commuter cars across the brand. Commuter cars. Joe T, elaborate on that for me, my friend. It says Trump tax cuts killing everyone except Wall Street. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like the whole tax cut situation, during the whole midterms, there was another proposal for an additional 10% tax cut solely focused on the middle class, as if that was going to be immediately felt in people's pockets. So I'm not even sure what happened with that, but we'll go from there. Says, I do not believe we will see jobs return. They were 1990s in my lifetime. Pat. The working class, the industrial side of things has been hollowed out to where, due to cheap labor and technological advancements now, I don't really foresee a time where there'll be an immediate need for physical labor, i.e. like there was in 20, 30 years ago when people worked in plants producing goods, because now everything is imported from countries that pay nothing for their workers to produce stuff. But I think that's going to change pretty soon, given the fact that this current model that we're under is not sustainable, and we're starting to see the cracks in the system. So I do believe that we will be a manufacturing hub once again, but it won't be with the same luxuries that we have now, given the fact that, if you just look around, I was actually looking today, drove past a pretty big mall in a suburban area that I grew up visiting, and it was, crowded. I drove past today and the parking lot was almost empty. And Sears, one of the biggest stores that was probably there the longest, vacant. You can see right through the doors, and it's, thousands of square footage of just empty space. So, once Sears left, only thing on the other side of the mall was Macy's, and it's just a matter of time before they're gone. Also, I read that JCPenney is not expecting to have a good Christmas season this year, so they're on the brink of probably need to do some downsizing as well. So, I think the credit boom, given the fact that we have the reserve currency, has been very good to us. But as you guys can tell, things aren't as plentiful and as abundant as it used to be, because once again, most people are tapped out. Credit, the role of credit has ruined our country, because people are tapped out on credit. And, once people can't finance their lifestyle, hence, being able to purchase cars regularly like they did years ago, what else do we have? So it's going to be a hard shock for a lot of people. Hence the whole idea of GM laying off, to be more profitable. They were, a lot of automobile makers, in my opinion, especially here in the Motor City area, the big three, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, they all had issues during the Great Recession, and they were bailed out, give or take, or had to, trim staff and things of that nature to basically restructure themselves for this so-called economic expansion. But as we can see, this past 10 years, they've taken on more than the true economy would really dictate, because they've added all types of staff, and they've grown, hence the idea of laying off 14,000 people, to all of a sudden now need to adjust their car manufacturing needs to more economical hybrid type cars, which hasn't been the American way, because here in America, we love big trucks, gas guzzlers, but yet, people aren't buying gas guzzlers like that anymore, and things are shifting towards more gas efficient cars. So hence the idea of 5 plants closing or being downsized or whatever is happening with them. So let me stop rambling. But anyway, feel free, people, give me a call, 1-833-LIVE-RTD. Let me know what's on your mind. It says illegal immigration is on pace to break a record for the last decade under Trump. Pat, I don't doubt those statistics, but it's just not under this current administration. I'd be willing to bet that, the last prior 8 years, and I'm sure George Bush, chipped in on that as well. So I would imagine that the whole idea of opening the borders up, it was all part of the whole idea of unifying Canada, Canada, the U.S. and Mexico, removing borders, period. So the whole goal all along was to not have borders, a part of this whole one world, one global system type of ordeal that we are under. And so migrants have been flooding into this country because this is a place of the American dream, on top of the fact that when you come here, you can be a part of our system without contributing much to it, give or take the entitlement system aspect of it. So, if you're in a country that's, struggling and you're making crumbs, you got a chance to go above the border to America to, get a taste of a dream, then, why wouldn't you go? Now, one of the biggest questions that I have in reference to the whole migrant moving up through Mexico is that you got thousands of people on foot, and you got video cameras of reporters walking along with them. And I'm thinking, like, are all those people truly that, desperate and down and out that they don't have vehicles to where they're not able to drive, and make their trips shorter? But the media did a great job of really highlighting, thousands of people apparently walking and catching rides and riding on the back of trucks, as if people in Honduras and Guatemala don't have vehicles. And one thing, I know from firsthand experience, in Mexico especially, all those countries there's typically either a scooter for the family where you got 3 or 4 people riding on one scooter in the city, or you have a small foreign old car where you put 5, 6, 7 people in it, and they pack in those cars like it's that's all they have. Excuse me. So with that being the case, I would imagine that a lot of people probably left somewhat of a decent lifestyle or something that wasn't as bad as the media makes it seem, to come here in hopes of achieving whatever it is they were promised on their route here. So just my 2 cents there, but feel free to let me know what you think. It says, just because the current situation is not sustainable does not mean things will get better from here. We could get worse for decades. Pat, very true. I don't doubt it. And I'm not one to say that things are going to get better. I do believe they will get worse before they get better, just because, what does getting better actually mean? Because our entire, this entire world order, this entire system of political structure, or monetary system, it's all failing. So I'm not sure there's no solution in place to do away with the old. So it's going to get worse, and so that's just reality to me. So in knowing that, it's more so like, brace for impact and prepare yourself as best as you can. And more importantly, try to keep a sound mind about it to be able to move strategically as things shift around you and not be caught up in a tide as the waves blow back and forth. So whatever that means for you. It says, with the migrants, our wages will go down and will never recover. Blue. And here's the thing. I'm thinking about, we have all those migrants or foreigners moving up towards the equator, not the equator, but the border. And they're coming here to, to be a part of this American dream concept that was, developed 40, 50 years ago for the, baby boomers generation primarily. But it still seems to be, in our vocabulary, even though a lot of people, I'm sure, aren't feeling it directly. But anyway, so here's the thing. Like, most of the people are coming up here with no true skills or no, nothing of value to add to this economy here. So they're only going to really be looking for hard labor type jobs or under the table style jobs, which will heavily impact the Latino American community, which ideally the Mexicans that were normally coming in for jobs and things of that nature, who were doing things under the table along the borders. That's going to impact those jobs. So you can imagine that for the last several decades, I'd imagine illegal immigrants from Mexico were holding down fort with, just lawn service, any type of thing that, people, they worked hard and they got the job done. Their jobs are going to be impacted the most. And so those, people are going to look to move further in towards the Midwest area, which will probably get involved in farming or whatnot. And then eventually more towards the North where, there's no longer any real manufacturing, but they're going to find a way to, fit into society as well as compete with Americans that have been very pampered and spoiled over the last couple of decades. So it's going to be a lot of competition out there for those that are coming from below from the border, that have the education and whatnot, and going to be competing for jobs if they come through legally, whatever. So we'll see. We will see. This is all interesting how it's playing out. It says Trump calls for GM to close plans in China and bring the jobs back and open the plant in Ohio immediately. They won't happen all soon. Yeah. I'm not sure at this point. Laying off 14,000 here with 5 plants and bringing a plant back here. I would imagine that GM would probably keep it there because it's cheaper there, and they probably have just a better resources to labor at a much cheaper cost. So you come back here, people are going to want their unionized pay, 15, 20, 30, what I'm not even sure what it is, but it's a lot cheaper to do it in China, unfortunately. It says, question, did you see the protests in France? They got after their government. Philman, I did not see the protests in France. Fill me in, please. Curious to find out what's going on there. So that's another. It says the French love to protest and set fires. Yeah, Europeans in general, man, they don't mind taking to the streets and they will burn something. And what's interesting is, I'm not sure if you guys actually, if you follow news on a global scale, you'll always notice that whenever there's an uprising of the citizens against the government, you have patrol and police in the streets with their military gear on, plastic shields, helmets on, batons, guns, whatever they need, water tanks in the streets. And you got people actually out there throwing stuff and actually okay, here's a picture right here. This is very timely. And so it says French fuel tax protest, tensions expose growing political divide. So just what I was talking about, here you have a picture, soon to be a video probably, of people in the streets. You got the military, the police right here, and you have people on the other side actually getting ready to throw stuff. So here we have people in the streets. The streets are blocked off, and this is right on one of the main streets because you see one of the little monuments there heading to the center area. So, could you imagine whatever city you're watching us from, your downtown area, because every downtown has a little gathering metropolitan type community area. Could you imagine the police and people in your city in those circles and squares and throwing stuff and at the government, man? That is something that we have no experience with here. And to my knowledge, apart from isolated events, hence, just off the top of my mind, Chicago years ago and Detroit back in the 60s. And so most people aren't used to really hitting the streets for their rights. And so here in France, it looks like, as I read here, increase the taxes on people. You cut into your cost of living a little bit. That's going to piss a lot of people off. So this is just, look at this. They tearing up their own city. They're vandalizing their own city. And of course, look at this, man. This is something else. They got all this stuff in the street, debris in the streets, spray paint, breaking stuff. They're tearing up their own city because the government decided to raise taxes and whatever else that goes along that story. So yeah, man. But Philman, thanks for filling me in on that one. I wasn't up on that one. So their gas tax got raised and they went mental. Yeah, interesting. It says, who do you think will pay? Oops, let me cut this off. I'm not sure why I keep playing. It says, question. Question is where's the question somewhere? It says, who do you think will pay our masters at the Fed to live for free when the rug is pulled? We are. Yeah, that will be interesting. Yeah, so in the next couple of weeks, we got another Fed meeting and to see if they're going to raise another quarter point and get it. I think it'll be above 2%, the Fed funds rate. And all along, the interbank rate that the banks loan at has gone up as well. So the banks are, they haven't really made any adjustments on depositors' interest earned. And so you got the Fed funds rates, you got the interbank rate, and then you got the consumer depositor rate. And so the Fed funds rate is probably 2%, 2 point, whatever they're going to put up to. And the interbank rate is probably like 1 point or, basically 1 point. So that's a whole 1 point percentage of interest that, they can earn on our behalf. But yet they haven't gone up much on the savers or depositors interest rate at all. So I'm not sure what the average is now, but, I'm sure most people, if you got a lot parked in a bank, you haven't noticed much of a gain on your funds. So it's good to say that no matter how high the interest rates go up, I don't think the banks are gonna, pay you your worth, what you're due on lending them your money. It says there's no way to stop the U.S. can stop what's coming. It's too late. We'll become a second world nation at best within a few years. A worldwide depression is inevitable already. No brakes, no wheels. Whew, that's very scary there, Pat. Scary the way you put it there. But definitely, change is on the horizon. And so we've experienced a lot of it thus far this year. And just off the top of my head, if you guys want to chime in, feel free to let me know. Let's, as we draw towards the end of this year, we have basically, a little bit of a month left. And so if we look back over the last couple of months of this year, what's been some of the most trend-setting or changes that setting us up for this great recession, or the greater recession, as I think I had a guest on a while ago to mention that the greater depression is coming or something. I think it was I don't know who it was, but anyway. But what are some of the things that we're okay? So it says the 10-year Fed rate. Okay, so we got the bond rate. So the whole idea of an inverted curve is still on the horizon, give or take, if they continue to hike at a faster pace. It says 30,000 people took to the streets in France over the gas tax. France will not stop the tax. Yeah, but here's the thing, that 30,000 is just the beginning, if that is the correct number, because if they don't make any adjustments, it's going to be 45, 50,000 pretty soon. And you get that many people in the streets, it's going to be hard to contain. It's going to be hard to keep the peace in that country. So that could turn out to all-out countrywide civil unrest type of event there, which could be very problematic for that country, because they can start vandalizing and tearing up stuff to really make their point, to try to get their point across. So something worth keeping an eye on. It says George Herbert Walker Bush started this problem. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it one bit. And, I wouldn't say, Faith, I wouldn't really say that, the Bush himself or the family started. It was already in play well before, back when he was just a normal politician or whatever. His, I think I was Ronald Reagan, was an actor. But yeah, I think, everything was already in play. It just seems to be speeding up right now due to the nature of the overall lack of health in our economy. Because of, I think the central bankers knew at the end of the day, it's only so much they can do as far as indebting nations and enslaving the people with, worthless paper that will be devalued at a massive rate. So I imagine the central bankers knew that one day it would come to an end. But it looks like the whole goal in central banking is to be able to use counterfeit money or fake funds, bring it into existence by lending it to the government, and then using that to acquire real tangible goods. Hence the idea of what is currently on the Fed's balance sheet. They actually have real property and real assets on their books, and they only gave paper and digits in exchange for that. That's brilliant, man. That's the fact that it works and is a part of our system. Like if you had the ability to be the banker, to create out of nowhere, to give it to people, and people took it willingly and worked for it, and they gave you real stuff in exchange, I think we would all probably play that same game. Says, did you hear any news about China's social credit? Sounds scary. Social credit. I believe, yes, they're a part of their 30-year plan is to, because their primary spokesman, aka President Xi Jinping, he's in power for life now. So he's basically the king now of China, and so a part of that new world order that they're setting up over there that's going to start and do everything through China, it comes with that social score of basically your credit being linked to every single thing you do. And if you don't participate, if you don't obey and be a willing participant of what's being put before you, then your score will be diminished and you'll be cut off from society in every form or fashion. That includes your finances, your health, family. You'll probably be outcasted and banned from the country. That's really bad. But that's a part of the plan, given the fact that they are going to control the growth and the expansion of their economy there. Hence the idea, and I'll mention this in many years past, that people talk about the idea that they got ghost cities. They got thousands upon thousands, if not even millions, of empty vacant houses. Those houses were done as a way of being able to spend some of their funds, but those houses are in preparation for their economic boom that's coming during their industrial revolution. It's going to be next 20-30 years, where people will move from the countryside into those cities. They'll be living on credit. They'll be driving SUVs and doing all the things we're doing now. They'll have those privileges, and then that plays into the fact that we'll be making things here made in the USA. We'll be sending it out to China. So all the goods and services on the Chinese shelves will say made in the USA. So we're going to flip roles for 20, 30, 40 years, however long it lasts. So that's I believe that's probably how things will play off. But once again, it could be wrong. Says Thomas Jefferson warned against it. Yes, he did. Says IMF is ordering the central banks to use cryptocurrencies to exchange funds. That's crazy. Pat, that seemed like it's right on time. I don't doubt that this whole blockchain crypto revolution was strategically planned for this exact moment in time, as the old model of central bank printed paper and digital fractional reserve lending comes towards its end. You need an alternative. What better way than to get excited and to get people excited about a concept called decentralization, and put it out there and get everybody riled up and excited, and then flip the script on them and come out with their own central coins down the line. It says it's a dictator of China. Yeah, and that's the thing, Faith. We say dictator of China, but that's just how he is. He says because we on the other side of this ocean here, we value freedom, liberty, what little bit we do have left, and so we look on that side and say those people are oppressed and all stuff like that. But that's just the way it's always been for them. They've only known people in position. They've only known the government being their beginning and end. So they've never really known freedom, to my knowledge. So they've always been under a family or some type of structure where, they took orders. That's just how it is for them. And so that's the way it's going to be for them, until Christ comes again. It says, I bet most of those riots were funded by someone who trades currency to profit like Soros. So, yeah, I don't doubt it. I'm sure it was all structured intentionally. Like a lot of people, you can really tell, in my opinion, true movements that take place from financially backed movements, just by looking at how long people are willing to actually stay out in the streets in harsh weather conditions. So hence the idea right now it's pretty chilly in France. And so if you are a productive person, you have a life, you have things to do, you making moves, you don't have time to really, take away from your livelihood to go hit the streets to throw stuff in a freezing cold. Summertime's a lot different, whatever. But, if this thing continues on with people outside religiously, faithfully out there throwing stuff, protesting, standing strong over increasing tax, it's already expensive as heck in Europe. So I'm not sure it must really be that much of a big deal, because they already pay, per liter. I mean, it was 4 liters per gallon. They already paying, I don't know offhand, but I'd imagine gas prices for a gallon or 4 point something liters is all of $8, $9, $7, $8, $9 anyway. So yeah, But anyway, so my point is, I think that when it's extremely cold and people are still in the streets, you gotta have some backing behind you, because not so many people are gonna miss work in a warm building or give or take, making some money to go out and protest in a situation where it's more than likely you may not really be able to be the change you think you want to be anyway. So, but that's just me. It says, like the Arab Springs. Hence the idea they're in a desert though, so that's a bit different. And the fact they're in a desert, good weather year round, though, like especially in Egypt years ago. I mean, those people are living second world, third world status. So most people they don't have nothing to work or live for, in a sense, because a lot of people who want to lay out on the line, they'll be willing to say, I have nothing to lose, so I can be in the streets all day long because I'm fighting for something. So that could be a little bit different. But then you could be incentivized by having somebody funding you in the back to make it worth your while to really risk being put in jail and not being able to bail yourself out. So hopefully you got some funds. It says 7.8 per gallon of gas, and the tax was about 8 cents in France. Yeah, a gallon of gas in France averages over 7.50 pad. So thanks for that. So think about it. That definitely, granted they drive smaller cars and most people drive scooters and walk. Hence the idea in France, they got a pretty good subway system, apart from the fact you might get robbed on it. Yeah, or pickpocketed. Yeah, so yeah. Anybody been to France before, and if you're a foreigner, make sure you guard your pockets, because they can spot a foreigner off rip. But anyway, so 8 cents raised, and they are protesting. 8 cents, man. Yeah, I guess 8 cents goes a long way when you're living on a tight budget, perhaps for a lot of people there, given the fact that they're a younger population there. I'm not sure, and if somebody want to look it up, Blue or Patty might want to look it up, I think they're leading, the younger population, they're not working over there. So you got a lot of millennials and younger generation, was that X or Z or Y, whatever it is. You got the supposed to be in college, entering to the workforce, working, being productive population is not working right now. So I think they have a very high unemployment rate for the youth there. So I can imagine a lot of those crowds are the youth in the streets because they don't have jobs, and what little bit of money they do have, 8 cents goes away to the government. It says, Faith says, wonder about Venezuela. And that's the thing, think about that. That's on the complete other side of the spectrum. You got $7 a gallon, give or take, in France, and 15 to 20 cents a gallon in Venezuela. How much would you guys love to have a 25 cents to fill your tank up type of thing? Unemployment in France is something like 23%, if I remember it. So hence the idea you got 23% or you got majority of the youth on the streets. That's a different crowd. They're not working. They're not, not now that we look at it that way, they're going to be on the streets for a while, and it's going to get real ugly in France. And don't doubt if it just spreads outside of France to anywhere else that borders that country, like Spain. It says young people and the refugees are on welfare. They will crash. Yeah, I do agree. I agree 100%. 100%. And so what else? Let me see what else is going on here. Well, let's talk. I haven't had anybody call in yet. So nobody must not have nothing of major importance on their mind. But I did want to look at, there was an article I came across earlier that I think would be worth mentioning. Let me pull it up 1 second. Let me pull this article up because I think it's one of those important topics that you guys can appreciate. And so another thing I touched on earlier is the whole Ukraine situation. What's going on with Ukraine? Unclosed plants without a hell of a fight. So here's the thing, this is another little story. But just the very title of the article lets me know that, you what do you hope to accomplish with, putting up a fight? But we do have a call, so let's get to this call. Hello, caller. Oops. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? Tim, how you doing, my friend? What's on your mind tonight?
Good. Hey, well, I got these ads, right, in the paper talking about giving you a chip or like a tattoo that's your ID and everything, and they're going to give you free 20 USD coins with it.
Free?
You think I should go for it?
Hold on, say free?
Free.
So, okay, nothing's free, so you've been incentivized to give up something to get something they want you to have. Now you say US what coins, or what is that?
USD coins. These are stable coins.
USDC, yeah.
Stable.
Yeah, but they're still dollar denominated stable, so that's not really saying much. But I get your point. I know you've been funny. I get your point. But are you for real? Are you for real about that?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I'm about to say, what type of offer is that? Oh my goodness.
No, you're on point as usual, Mike.
I appreciate it.
Keep up the good work, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks. Welcome back to your work week.
Appreciate it, buddy. You as well. Have a good one.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, me going there for a second. I'm like, they giving away USD coins. I'm like, that's something different. Where's that being offered at? But as I was saying, here's an article here about the unions. The unions are basically refusing to accept the fact that GM wants to close a plant. That's what it sounds like here. And so I'm thinking like this definitely won't end well, because what type of power would the unions have to keep a plant open without something becoming a little bit of a touchy or ugly situation there? And so GM won't close plants without one hell of a fight. So whatever this plays into, I know it talks about some of the worst job losses in the automotive industry, and right now it says GM's latest job cuts rank as the 7th biggest in the auto sector since 2001. And so you look at all these jobs lost, so 47,000 in the midst of the Great Recession. We had 35,000 after the .com type stuff. We got what else? Down to 26,000 01. So yeah. It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years since the last massive layoff, and this is just one manufacturer. So I think Ford gonna have some shake-up plans, and it's gonna get real ugly. But just as headlines that it's gonna be a hell of a fight to close a plant. All you gotta do is stop paying. Just cut the funds. You cut the funds, there go the people. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. Very, very interesting. What else we got going on the chat over here? It says General Motors laying off workers and closing plants. It's official. Buyouts are happening. Yeah, so the whole idea of buyouts now. So in October, it was reported that 18,000 employees were going to get an opportunity to, receive a buyout. But I read another article in between that saying that because they're so far behind schedule and actually being able to, I guess, work all that out, they just said, the hell with that. So they're going to just lay off. So if you didn't get a letter like that first week or two and accept it right away and get things rolling, you probably missed out on the opportunity to actually get the full extent of the buyout that they were probably initially offering. And so now a lot of those people who are going to be a part of this 14,000, they're not going to get buyouts. And so you got everyone from executives I read all the way to hourly workers that won't get the type of benefits that they thought they were. Of course, people at executives will, I'm sure, but the hourly workers, I don't think they're going to be getting any type of special handshakes or agreements on the way out the door. And plus, especially if they're hourly, it says vehicles are too damn expensive. So that's another point I wanted to touch on. It's living in the Metro Detroit area. There's car lots everywhere, and of course in every metropolitan city, but yet having car lots, manufacturing plants. Like there's the Dearborn, there's the Warren, there's Detroit, there's the Wixom. So there's 4 plants come to my mind. And whenever I drive past or see those plants, they have what looks like hundreds, if not thousands, of trucks and cars just parked out in the lot, either not sent out yet or just inventories backed up. And so just the very idea of needing to come out with a new model every year seems like it wasn't something that was intended to be a long-term idea, given the fact that majority of people right now can't truly afford to acquire a car apart from a lease, one of them rent-to-own type of situations, or they finance a car for, I guess now you can do it up to 72 months or something like that, or something of that nature. So here's the idea that they come out with a new model every year with very little change, a couple bells and whistles here and there, but you got a 2017, 2018, and they even working on 2019, 2020 models. And I'm thinking, like, people can't afford them in the first place. So especially those, I do like a nice truck. So you look at the GM trucks, $60,000, all computerized. I'm thinking, like, people can't, the Main Street economy, people can't afford those type of trucks, but yet, people go out on a limb and, they'll put their livelihoods on the line for one of those things. But just the idea that people can't continue to finance their lifestyle with a vehicle, especially, doesn't seem like it's going to be something that will have lasted long anyway. It worked well for the last 20, 30 years, but I think that model is going to change, and especially after everything unwinds and we begin trying to come back to reality as far as, what can we truly afford minus the ease of financing. I don't think people would really be going out and buying cars anyway, because the biggest thing is going to be housing. Because if housing prices don't come down, people won't be able to afford housing in general, period. So the whole idea of a new car coming out every year is crazy anyway, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but let me know in the comment section if you don't mind. It says, every citizen should be a soldier. This was the case with the Greeks and the Romans. It must be a very free state. Thomas Jefferson. That's different. That's different. Be a soldier. Yeah, I'll leave that alone. I'm not sure about that idea of being a soldier. I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. The good thing is we still have rights to bear arms. So, with being able to bear arms still puts you in a position to be able to protect and defend yourself in the way that a soldier would have to do for their country, I guess. It says Ford Motor Company will no longer produce cars, only trucks. This used market will be big. Yeah, the used car market. And that's the thing, like here in America, especially during the whole TARP situation where they were giving cash back credit rebate type stuff for cars. Was it the cash for clunkers? Did anybody take advantage? Okay, did anybody watching take advantage of the cash for clunkers back in 2010? I think it was 9. It was a 9 or 10, either one, where you got $1,000, $2,000 towards a new car. Like, just think about that. Like, our country, our economy is failing, and they giving they subsidizing the purchase of a new car the same way they did subsidizing for new homes after the .com bust. So if you look at the trend there, market crash, economy is collapsing. They drop interest rates. They look to create funny money by encouraging people to borrow, and then they subsidize things that people really can't afford. And then the banking sector spin off products off of those, mortgage-backed securities. I'm sure they got car-backed security. I'm sure they got all types of products. And then we run into a problem where once that cycle ends, 6, 7, 8, 9 years later, we come to reality that people couldn't afford it in the first place. So the question is, what's going to be the next incentive to get people to get out there and to get into debt again? That's going to be interesting because people are already up to the wazoo with their house, their student loans, credit cards, car loans, whatever else you can find. I'm sure that people out there financing other things. That's 5 or 6 of the primary things of our lives. And if people are already tapped out, what's going to be the next incentive? So, yeah, that's if you have any thoughts to that, feel free to chime in on that one. It says, which companies do you think will be bailed out? Which companies will be bailed out? I think we talked about this before. Bailed out. Well, not necessarily companies directly, but certain industries will be subsidized. Hence, what just happened with the agriculture, and so I guess I'm not sure how much, but there was a certain portion that was given some funds because of this tariff situation when it came to the agriculture sector. So farmers were bailed out or given some aid this past summer. I'm not sure how much, but I can look it up. but the farmers received aid. So let me pull it up. Government. Let me see. How to title that? Government gave. I'm curious to find out how much were they given. I think it was about 50 billion. Gives aid to agriculture, and see what pops up to farmers. And see what pops up here. See how much. Okay, so it looks like it says the U.S. government. I'll pull it up. So just to give you an idea as to, so the question was what companies I think will be bailed out. And so I don't necessarily think companies directly, because they're going to actually have, because things run the risk of being so bad all the way around to where they're going to have to pick and choose which industries they can keep going or keep propped up, and then they're going to have to choose to let some industries go, because the government's going to do everything they can to try to keep up as much as they can, but they can't do that without that creating massive inflation, because where's all this money, this funny money coming from? It's coming from debt, and then it's going to be pumped out into the economy, and it's going to touch all the main necessities that we need for our livelihood: food, water, shelter. So last time inflation was avoided because it's on the Fed's balance sheet. This next go round, they're going to have to inject something, and it'll probably be better off. So here's a thought, and this plays like UBI, Universal Basic Income, or UBA, Universal Basic Allowance, that could possibly come. But I think what'll happen is, instead of bailing out sectors, industries, companies, the best bet is to bail the people out directly. The last line and the last hoorah is to just inject a couple trillion directly into the citizens' bank accounts, which is going to cause problems anyway, but it'll give the people a sense of excitement for a short period of time before they realize that the prices have tripled within the end of that month. So here's an article here: U.S. government to pay $4.7 billion in tariff-related aid. So when you see the word aid, they're basically subsidizing or bailing out, in a sense, farmers. And so that $4.7 billion, I'm not sure what it says the bulk of payments, $3.6 billion, will be made to soybean farmers. So another article I read, don't quote me, but I'm sure if you look it up, you'll find it. Most of the soybean farmers, not most, or enough, are Chinese-owned companies. So if what I read, of course, I would encourage you to go look it up, because I could be completely wrong. But if I'm not mistaken, a good chunk or a good percentage of the soybean farmers and certain types of farmers in this country have already been sold to Chinese companies. And so this 3.6 could easily have gone towards help propping up those Chinese companies to keep things operating. So they could, the administration could have easily helped China out with this package. So that's just something to think about as well. So China has traditionally bought about 60% of U.S. soybeans. So with the idea of China buying about 60%, they're buying 60%, but why not go ahead and own some of that? Which I believe they probably own a good chunk of that. Why? Because they import a lot of 60% from us. So why not go ahead and cut your costs a little bit and acquire some of them companies, which I bet they did. So long story short, $4.7 billion has already been injected into the farming industry this year, and we're not even, it's not even bad times supposedly. So next year after that, when things hit the fan, food would be bailed out continuously. I can see public services, like whatever your electric company, whatever your water company is, whatever they are, water, electric, gas companies, those three companies usually operate under the same window sometimes. They're going to receive some government aid, because in order for them to stay in business, they're going to have to hike prices, which means the consumers, you and I, will be hit with a much larger bill, which would be very catastrophic for our overall livelihood. So they can't allow the prices to go up. So what they can't go up on in price, the government will cushion that. So food, utilities will be subsidized. And then that third one is I'm up in the air. Let me know what you think. I mean, it could be some stuff that I'm not even aware of, but that's kind of where I see things could possibly head into. So that's just my 2 cents. Let me know. I could be completely off. But I don't think so. But other than that, what else going on in the chat out here? It says Trump may not like bailouts. He is the bankruptcy king. Yeah, I had a great conversation with somebody referencing the idea that what was about Trump being the bailout king or something of that nature, and how part of his role now as president is to basically help provide as soft of a landing as he can, because he's playing along with that. I gave jobs, the economy's booming because of me, because he has to. That's part of the job. That's part of his job description. You got to tell the people what they want to hear, what they need to hear, in the midst of doing whatever you do on the back end. So I think a part of his administration is to help help cushion the landing of a crashing global economy that will be most impacted, or where the most damage will be done in the country that has the current reserve currency. And so with that being the case, I think at the end of the day, there's going to be some type of restructuring, a bailout, a bankruptcy, whatever it is, which is simply just a devaluation or default on our obligations. So that's it. Ultimately, it all boils down to the currency at the end of the day. What will happen to the currency, our national currency? That's the bottom line. So however it plays out, the end result will be the things floating behind my head will be exposed for what they are and what they have been, just IOUs. And for those that may not be aware of that or not want to believe that, if you go to the I think it's federalreserve.gov or no, treasury.gov, you look up what's the difference between a United States note and a Federal Reserve note, and it gives you a nice long page. And at the very bottom of it says Federal Reserve note is not of any value except what you're able to use it for in the midst of trade or something like that. So basically, it's only good for what you can buy at the time you go to spend it. So if that is true, which it's on the treasury.gov website, so that lets me know that at the end of the day, it's just going to be a currency situation. That's why the whole idea of get your weight up is very important for everybody, because you have an opportunity to actually get into holding money in exchange for receipts. It would be a no-brainer in my opinion. So this month, as we draw towards the end, it's still get your weight up month. So as you see below this video, there's a link for this opportunity here with S3 Bullion for you guys to get 1 gram if you're interested. So it's cheapest thing you're gonna find right now, so I would encourage you to do it. And also hear from the man himself, Alan Greenspan. Got a free ebook for those that have not had a chance to just click it and read it. It's 7-8 pages, very detailed as to how we arrived at the current situation we're in now. So just something for you guys to take advantage of if you're interested. That's what it is. It says crypto is getting their hands slapped right now. Patrick James, very true. Crypto is being tested right now, and it's not necessarily that it's being tested. And when I first saw that, of course, I follow a variety of people in our sector. So my first thought was when backed, BAKKT, the Goldman Sachs, as I did a video a while ago, as they pushed back their plans to start their initial rollout, lets me know that, they're still trying to buy some time, hence the idea of the price drop. But it has more so to do with the exchanges. Like, it was a no-brainer on my part, because every collapse in the cryptocurrency price was led by either a person who was heavily invested, a group of people who were working together, or some type of government FUD to get the government situations on point. Because there's a lot of governments now that got Bitcoin, and they got holdings. A lot of governments hodl as well. And then this last go round, and this why I say about this last go round is because it was exchange induced. So the exchanges, there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 exchanges that are global entities that hold hundreds of millions worth of crypto supposedly. And so I think right now we're experiencing the exchanges working together in tandem to create this atmosphere of chaos so that they can cause panic in the public, so that people will sell in fear of losing all they got, all they put into it, because hence most of the people who hold cryptocurrencies got in during the rally. And so if you stand to lose half or more than half of what you put in, you're freaking out and you're running. That's a great idea to get soft hands out of the mix. So right now the prices are low because exchange needs to actually get all these cryptos at a much cheaper price, and they get all the scary people out. Once all the spectators have been shaken out, then they're going to start the system again. Then we'll see a rally. So each crash has been caused by a certain person or a group of people for a reason. This right here is the last one, I believe, for this next rally because it's the exchanges. So just my 2 cents. You can believe it if not, but depending on how you look at it, it can help you get involved or it could help you to get out. You probably want to get out if you're losing money, but whatever. So it says, I'm stacking as much crypto as I can. Brando, I understand that one. It says, Brando, call in and ask Mike if he is buying Litecoin at 28 measly, useless green paper rectangles. Jesse James, I am a Litecoin fan. I have not acquired any at these prices because I know it's going to go lower. And so I'm hoping for $15 to $10 Litecoin. And if it goes there, then I definitely will look to get involved. But right now, 28 is not cheap enough for me because I do believe it will go down lower. Says, I'm not selling crypto, slowly accumulating. Obviously, to me, the Wall Street grid is buying it up. Yes, I would say, Mike, you don't lose until you sell. Very true. Until you sell, until you get out of it, until you're shaken out or scared out of it, either one. So that's typically how it goes. And of course, everyone can't stand the tension and all the emotional strain behind the thought of something going down. But it's real exciting when something goes up, boy. When something goes up, that's when your juices is flowing. You don't care what, you're gonna find something to get involved with. But yet when it's going down, people run. So that's the best time to actually look into something. That's the best time to study, in my opinion. But people, it is what it is. So we draw towards the end. We're on an hour point. I appreciate you guys chiming in, man. As always, if you're watching, got a good enough amount of people on here, give your boy a thumbs up so that more people can come across this community channel here and get more participation so people can either ask questions, get questions answered, and just find out stuff they won't hear on their favorite or what used to be their favorite mainstream corporate media channels. All the acronyms, the CNN, the Fox News, the MSNBCs, the CNCs, and all that stuff like that, man. That stuff to me is old. Once it gets there, once you get there, it's already old news is happening. We try to stay ahead of the trends by predicting or running by scenarios on what could happen. And so let's keep our eyes on everything happening by the border, and definitely everything happening over in that Russia-Ukraine area that's getting a little tense. So there's all type of areas that we need to be prayerful for, man. So definitely stay prayerful and be encouraged in this day and age. It says $15 Litecoin, that is blood in the streets. That's it could be, but yet if you can grab some, that's the same to me as like if it was possible for silver to go to $10, out the door, an ounce type price, like that's the same equivalence of looking at it being of a fire sale for real. If you can, and so I'm hoping silver go a little lower too. I mean, hell, but see, the problem with silver is, because you actually have retail stores and dealers and whatnot, they're going to put some premium on top of it. So you won't actually get those prices. But with cryptocurrencies for now, you still can. So I'm going to definitely keep my eye on it, stay alert, attentive, and take action when need be. But everybody, it's been great chatting tonight. Definitely, man, give me a thumbs up if you haven't shared this video. Give it a like. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night, God willing. And also take advantage of this gold gram. Get your weight up, people. You got a couple more days and get this educational book here. Share it with a friend. We got Christmas coming up. Definitely want to be a blessing to somebody. Do what you got to do over there. But other than that, support the channel. Give me a thumbs up. Got Patreon over here if you guys want to support the channel. Your boy does accept Bitcoin up there in that corner. So if you want to be a blessing that way, I wouldn't tell you no. But anyway, be safe. Be blessed. Good night.